Live. Yeah, we're live. Hey everyone. I'm interviewing Thomas Dunn from Buffer. We initially met on LinkedIn, and I really found his profile or summary really exciting. We briefly talked before starting this. Mind sharing that with people who are watching or might be watching in the future what I'm talking about?
Yeah, please. Yeah, thank you. So sorry, I've didn't quite know what you meant by it. Do you mean share my bio or my
No, the fact that you're talking about the three startups you had on LinkedIn,
Oh
three
yes.
startups that failed, but something you learned a lot from. And
Yeah,
I really don't know what those startups are, so maybe you can start by telling me what you've done.
awesome. Thank you. And yeah, sorry for my confusion there.
No
Yeah,
problem.
so it was a pretty like a bumpy road in a good way. Lots of interesting things happened. It was one hell of a journey, and I think when I started off, I think like many people, I watched The Social Network, and I was just like, wow, and make millions from my bedroom sort of thing. And I didn't really think about the kind of donkey work that goes into it. But I'd always been kind of, I guess, kind of tiered towards entrepreneurial stuff. Sorry about that. Um, and I was a musician before in college, and I joined this band for a couple of years, and I ended up managing the band and doing things like that. And I guess kind of skills that came along with management, such as like Photoshop, web design, and marketing, things like liaising with record labels and agents and people like that. It kind of over this 2 years of being in college and failing college as well, to be honest, well. Um, it just, yeah, I realized that I'd built up this set of skills that, were very applicable to the business world, as well as kind of managing a band. And yeah, the first venture I set up was like an agency that basically gave, I guess, inflated presences for musicians online. So about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, back when it was still possible to buy likes and click labs and
Yeah,
quite a messy world. However, I found that there were thousands of bands and artists willing to make themselves look a lot bigger than they actually were, so that they could, book a gig with a promoter or impress a label or something like that. So it was pretty shady, pretty black hat, and naturally that wasn't a sustainable venture. As soon as Twitter and Facebook started clamping down, then botted accounts and all this stuff started disappearing, and I was super naive. I really didn't think about it. It was just a quick buck for me at the time.
yeah,
So I ended up losing more money than I made in the end, even though it was initially quite lucrative.
wow.
But that was a really, really fun experience, and I was doing that whilst traveling around South America with my girlfriend, and not really knowing what I wanted to do in life. I just knew that I wanted to work for myself. Because I'd failed college, I had no kind of chances of going to a decent university or anything. So yeah, that was venture number one, called DAT Market. And yeah, I had an absolute blast, really good time. And then that led me into the kind of my first tech startup, which was called FanCheck. Um, and I guess it is in a kind of similar space to kind of Buffer mission wise on a much more kind of tiny scale. And
Yeah,
it was just an analytics tool, similar to Summel, if you've seen that, where you can see
yeah,
all,
yeah,
yeah, kind of social media statistics and metrics all in one kind of digestible kind of dashboard.
yeah,
And so we would develop that for about 8 months, built on like a call it or MVP, but we really didn't know what we were doing, and it was more me than anyone, to be honest, not knowing what I was doing. And I hadn't read kind of like the lean startup. I didn't even know what lean meant. I didn't um, have any notion of MVP. So I was always thinking of these grand, beautiful, intricate features and products that we could integrate, but not just thinking about solving a problem. So naturally that fizzled out, and investors back then didn't want to hear any of it, and I had some great kind of pitches where I would just be torn apart. But every time I left a pitch like that, I felt a lot better. I'd learned something new, and as long as I didn't make the same mistakes in the next pitch, it could only kind of get better from there. And
yeah.
yeah, I really valued that experience. And
So
yes,
you've kind of lived the Silicon Valley lifestyle for a while.
um, I mean, I think that the term Silicon Valley lifestyle sounds pretty glamorous, and this certainly wasn't. But I know what you mean. Yeah, no, it's a great. It was, I guess. I mean, I took a lot of risks, and um, yeah, thankfully I was accepted into university on the merit of these kind of ventures. So academically, I wasn't able with any grades or anything, but I got into a university to do a business 2-year intensive degree. Yeah, very grateful that I could do that. And when I did that, I met some other students, and we created what was, I guess, my third startup called Idea Sprout. And that was the first time we'd raised a small amount of seed funding from investors, and we built a cool product. And yeah, again, that was a very interesting time because I think every startup until that stage had got, to a later stage, it got kind of, I guess, more credible and more startup-y. And yeah, we didn't take care of ourselves kind of contract-wise or any of these, I guess, important, but often, I don't want to say boring, but you know what I mean, the kind of, yeah, the legality side of things. And so yeah, we had a few issues there, and also transparency was something that we just had no transparency at all. And so if I had like a challenge, I wouldn't I wouldn't bring it to the team or to my kind of founders. And these kind of small things just grew and grew and grew until they were at a stage where they were almost irreparable. And I think, yeah, a lot came down. That was the first time I really thought about how to kind of I guess culture and the way that we do things, as well as the things that we do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And and I'm sorry, I realize I've been talking a lot. So if you had
it's super interesting. I've like look at my life and I'm like, what the hell have I done? But yeah, you're with Buffer now, and I saw you do something called customer research. What's that? It's not like customer service, I guess.
That's a great question. Yeah, and to be honest, when I first saw the job application, I didn't know what it was either. It's I guess customer development and UX research, kind of experience, and but mainly, yeah, it's customer development, and I think it's kind of validating hypotheses about the product. Kind of, I think with Buffer, it's so cool that things get shipped very quickly. It's constantly evolving, and so if there is like a feature that we want to introduce or that we have a hunch might be a really good fit, before cracking ahead with engineering, we'll reach out to ideally the most relevant sample of our customers or customers that we don't have yet, and then just kind of test these hypotheses and really try to invalidate this. But if it feels like it's a really good fit, then we can go ahead. And this way, I guess, hypothetically and hopefully, it means that we're building a product that it's solving kind of problems right now, and it's kind of it's very fluid and continuous. So I spend a lot of time talking to customers and just learning from their experiences. What works well, what doesn't work well. How do you use this, and lots of questions like that. Where I tend to do most of the listening, which is really, really cool, and I learn a huge amount. But I think that's, I guess, the main focus I have with Buffer.
Yeah, and I know Buffer is a social publishing tool, so we're kind of competitors, but I don't see it like that. It's all about being friends and sharing experiences and stuff like that. So how do you think people are going to relate to social in, let's say, 5 years of time? Because in Norway, bigger news or media publishing sites have kind of tried to predict the future by seeing that most younger people are kind of isolating themselves away from posting and away from the social stuff, and using it more as a way of keeping in touch with friends and stuff, instead of using it as actively as we did when Facebook or Twitter was first introduced. Actually, the use in Twitter has dropped in Norway, but Facebook is kind of stabilizing. How do you guys see that?
That's a really great question, and to be honest, it's not something I think I have a great answer on. But I think like it's such a broad spectrum when it comes to social, and when you talk about the use case of kind of young people using kind of Twitter or Facebook. I think that we, positioning wise, we don't really, I guess, the Buffer doesn't really, I don't think, cater for that kind of need so much. I think it's more towards the brand and the kind of business use case,
Yeah.
which from what I've seen, seems to be growing very, very quickly. And I think another, I guess,
I'm actually using Buffer personally. And what's cool is that if I die tomorrow, people will think I'm alive in December even.
yeah, yeah, no, I think, yeah, I mean, these things do happen, I think, and yeah, it's like you say, it's it's an evolving space, I guess, is the best way to say it. And if Facebook's revoked our API access tomorrow, I think we'd lose a huge percentage of our business. And I think we change where the social platforms change, so it's constantly changing, and we really do not know what's going to happen in 5 years' time, whether or not it would even still be predominantly social media focused. I think it's exciting to be able to adapt to different changes, and if Twitter makes a massive kind of evolution, then we'll have to evolve alongside it. So I really do not know what the future holds, and especially with something like 5 years' time. However, yeah, it'd be exciting to try and tether the beast as long as possible.
Yeah, but yeah, you probably then have a better view of how brands are relating to sharing content, and how are they kind of adapting to this ever-changing social world.
That's sorry, I didn't mean to cut you short there. Yeah, I think social media education is an interesting one. And I worked as a freelancer for 2 years to fund university, and I found that lots of similarities amongst businesses. And I'd find that small kind of SMEs, kind of small medium-sized businesses, often they might have been running for 10, 20 years, but they'd never heard of social media, and suddenly they've got all this pressure to adopt a social media strategy and put all this money into this, and it kind of comes as a bit of a shock. So I find that there's a lot of not very tech savvy people out there, just because it's been such a quick, it's been such a sudden kind of movement. 5-10 years ago, it just isn't like it is now. So I think lots of small businesses are still adapting, and as with the growth that we've had, it's really exciting to see that it really feels like the tip of the iceberg. And that there are so many businesses out there that still haven't adopted social, and I think it's still like a gold rush. It's the good time for this. So yeah, sorry, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. Another question I have is that content marketing and storytelling and everything like that has become buzzwords, if you ask me, because those two things has always existed and it always will. And I think that technology has partly blinded us, and made us like stop focusing on the value of the stuff we share. So kind of a really great quote I got from the conference I was in Iceland was from Theo Cooper from Untold Agency, who said that we have to beware so the medium doesn't replace the message. And so what do you think? Like, do you think brands really are blinded by technology and let the tech kind of guide the content, or are we moving towards a better use of like publishing tools like what Buffer offers, and sharing valuable content?
That's a really great one, and I think again it can vary so much, and it's completely subjective. And personally, I think it's it's a really exciting time. I think social advocacy is something that my colleague Rodolphe at Buffer is really kind of excited about and looking into at the moment, and finding ways that non-traditional groups of people can share with social media. Maybe in an organization like a newspaper, it's quite kind of expected that everyone will be using social media, but in traditional, maybe in other industries, it's something that's not been adopted so much yet. And content-wise, to go back to your main point, is for us has been just everything. It's been absolutely just invaluable to our marketing efforts to produce good quality content and build a community. And I really love the story of how when Leo and Joel first got together, like 4 years ago, more than that now. And, I think there were 20,000 users at the time. And purely through writing quality content, Leo, helped bring it up to 100,000 users in less than a year, without having to pursue any sales or, heavy marketing techniques. So we're really proud that we don't have a sales team. We don't pursue any kind of aggressive business development in any way like that. It's very much kind of inbound. And I guess we're looking at other ways and thinking less about 10% growth month on month, and thinking more about how can we make the best product, and make something that our users can really benefit from. And by taking that approach, it's continued to grow. So for now, it's a really fun experiment to focus on things like content, amongst other things. But I think I didn't answer your question very well there. Sorry.
Like the businesses that uses Buffer, or even our clients, I think, are sometimes blinded by the technology and letting the technology getting in the way of that good content that they share. Like it's kind of hard to put a finger on it, but let's compare news stories.
Mhm.
Like, I really enjoy reading those long stories that Mashable has when they kind of wanted to review the Apple Watch.
Mhm.
I actually read the whole thing, but compare that to the 5-point list Buffer or BuzzFeed has. It's kind of like letting the technology getting in the way of building valuable content and just pushing something out just for the sake of publishing something. Do you think that's something like we're going to see more and more from brands in the future?
Um, I th-
Like it's so
I'm
typical, 10 steps to blah blah blah, or here's the 8 things you haven't done but should be doing, and you're seeing everything's the same these days. And I think it's because people are, or the brands are, getting blinded by the technology and the um, opportunities, instead of getting down and focusing on building valuable content that's worth sharing.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. I kind of know what you mean now. Sorry, it wasn't kind of 100%. I guess you mean, yeah, like using Buffer's own content suggestions, for example. I think one thing that we talked about very recently was the concept of just clicking on yes, 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 approve all of these posts without even reading them, and then suddenly it's just like you say, it's just content being shared for the sake of being shared. Maybe if you want more engagement or likes or whatever, but you haven't invested the time into making sure it's something tailored for your audience, made sure it's something of high quality and value. Yeah. So I know, yeah, that's a really interesting one. And yeah, I guess that's an ongoing thing, kind of challenge and an experiment for Buffer as well, is finding a balance between sharing quality whilst also I guess looking at it from a marketing angle. Yeah, but I don't think bands have been blinded, and I think that it's still such a it's still in its infancy, and that, yeah, if it does become saturated and this becomes a problem, I'm sure that it's something that the social platforms themselves would adapt to, as well as companies like yourself and Buffer as well. So I to be honest haven't given it much thought, and yeah, I don't have, I guess, any really concerns about this personally. I might be wrong.
Yeah, look, my life goal is to make the world a better place for brands. So I'm really like trying to figure out what's going to happen and how I can address that as best as I can. But hey, I've taken up your time. We've been talking for like 20 minutes, I think, and we
Okay.
actually have one person watching this interview live. That's
Oh wow.
good. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I think it's really cool to get a different point of view on stuff, and I'm really looking forward to keeping in touch, and hopefully meet you somewhere sometime.
I'd love to. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, for reaching out and thinking of me. And yeah, it's been really fun to chat. And yeah, please message me anytime.
Of course.
Skype there. And yeah, thanks again. I'd love to hear about what you're doing over in Norway. And yeah, sounds cool.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I'll hang up now, so we'll go offline, and then yeah, I guess I'll catch you around.
Cheers, Takin. All right, take care. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.